Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Garrett.
I'm David.
Today on the show we
This
are
is a
talking.
train wreck.
That's not abnormal.
No,
That's pretty standard.
I would say we're not even really in train wreck stage yet.
We haven't left the station.
No, we've noticed that the engineer is drunk though.
He do be drunk.
An accident is waiting to happen.
Oh God! Just keep going, Josh. I'm sorry.
Today on the show, we're talking about Iron Man 3, finishing up the Iron Man trilogy. With Iron Man 3.
That's right, Iron Man 3.
Last week we talked about Iron Man 2.
Whoa!
Today we talk about Iron Man 3.
Jesus.
Yes, Iron Man 3, starring Robert Downey Jr.
Don
the
Cheadle.
Well, it's just Robert Downey Jr. This movie came out in 2013. This is actually the first Iron Man movie not to be directed by Jon Favreau. Fun fact about the film.
But sees a bigger role for him.
Yes, but happy Madison, Gilmore, whatever. Hogan. Happy Hulk Hogan comes in.
That's right.
A little bit more. So, but anyway, yes, Don Cheadle, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Don Cheadle also get bigger roles in this film. We got Guy Pearce, Ben Kingsley, and some others. But that's not the point. The point is that this movie wraps up the Iron Man trilogy. Although those people who are fans of the MCU know that it does not wrap up Iron Man's story, just this set of films. So it also takes place after the first Avengers film, where they have the Battle of New York, where the aliens come in. You all remember this. Tony almost dies. He attempts to sacrifice himself, but he ends up surviving. But in this movie, Tony's dealing with... What, you got a question already?
Is that in a previous episode?
It is.
What?
You can listen to our Avengers review.
All right.
Just check back through your So Many Sequels playlist.
You can listen to the Avengers episode. Tony's dealing... what?
Garrett left.
Oh, now Garrett's left. Tony's dealing with some PTSD from that event through this film, which gives us a whole new kind of level and dynamic to Tony.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I like a lot about the Iron Man films is that each one, they each have their pros and cons, but each one moves Tony forward a little bit more as a human character.
That's right.
We see in Iron Man 1, Tony is the playboy millionaire. And that never really goes away, but he sees the damage that his job does. He sees what it does to people. He sees his own life, like, essentially flash before his eyes. And he has this, like, come to Jesus moment where he's like, okay, I need to turn things around. Then you got Iron Man 2, where he's dealing with his, mortality and all that stuff. Then you got Iron Man 3, where he's dealing with his feelings. He's got a lot of feelings. There's a new bad guy in town, the Mandarin. He is this, like, out-of-body terrorist type of guy who's only seen in videos. He's very cryptic. He's very menacing and intimidating. He hacks into the president's phone and stuff like that. He hacks into, like, U.S. broadcast airwaves.
Mm-hmm. Very much inspired by sort of the 9/11-esque terrorism.
Right. And he's after Tony.
Sentiments.
But not everything is as it seems. And the Mandarin is a fake. Spoiler alert. Mm. And the real bad guy is, what's his name? Aldridge Killian? Who is he's got superpowers.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the movie. What do we think about it? How long has it been since we've seen this movie, really sat with it? And how does it hold up? Iron Man 3.
I would say for me, the last time I saw it was probably like 2017, maybe. I think I probably rewatched it while we were getting ready for Infinity War to come out, things like that. I rewatched like a bunch of them. And I would say that I remember my initial viewing. I remember thinking it was really cool, but not necessarily loving the end. of the movie. I was a little bit confused because also during that time period, it was a very uncertain time for the Marvel movies in general. Like, was this, at the time, we didn't even know, was this Robert Downey Jr.'s last time playing Iron Man? There was no, like, reason to believe we were going to get another Iron Man movie. Maybe he'll show up in Avengers 2 and that'll be it. We just didn't really know. So I was like, I don't know if this is like, the best way to send him off or anything like that. I had problems with, another spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, he actually gets his arc reactor taken out. And I thought that seems like a really drastic thing to do. Like, he kind of removed the part that makes him uniquely Iron Man, is this whole, thing in his chest. But a lot of that was just sort of initial reactions and not really knowing what the future would hold. Now, having seen where it all went, I actually think that the movie's slightly more enjoyable now than it was then, because it really is a part of his story, a part of his growth. You see in this movie his desire to be a protector, and like it's reaching a critical mass of like he's going too far. His own health is starting to deteriorate, and his own like mental state is starting to deteriorate because he's so committed to the idea of, I have to be the protector. Like, all this stuff happened in New York, and it was this crazy stuff that no one ever could have seen coming. I met a god from another planet. Like, I met a soldier who's been alive for 80 years, and there's all these super spies and aliens and all this crazy stuff. I have to be ready for anything. I have to be ready for everything. And you can really see here where the seeds of where like things like Ultron and all this other stuff would have been, and his response to the Accords, where all that stuff would really come from, is his desire to protect the world without destroying it.
Yeah. Next on the show.
So I for a long time did not watch this movie, not because I didn't like it. I just hadn't seen it yet. And of the Marvel Comics universe movies, this was the last one that I've seen like out of place. And I saw it last year.
For the first time?
The first time.
You remember his relationship with Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
He thought it looked dumb.
And he thought Iron Man 2 on home video.
But like I wanted to complete watching all of the Marvel Cinematic movies. So I watched Thor: The Dark World first, and then this. And I liked this a lot better than I liked Iron Man 2 by a margin, because like I felt it was more entertaining. I felt there was a way better story, and I wasn't there wasn't any time that I was bored by it.
Yeah.
I liked this movie. I didn't like this movie the first time I saw it. I didn't hate it. I just was indifferent to it. And then watching it this time, I really enjoyed it. But now that I'm thinking back on it, the movie itself is kind of forgettable. Like, there are pieces of this movie that I like and that I remember, but like the movie as a whole, it was kind of forgettable. Is it Guy Pearce or Guy Ritchie? I genuinely can't remember.
It's never Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie's the director.
Yeah,
they don't even look alike.
It's like me using Russell Crowe and Colin Farrell. Like, I do that all the time for no reason.
Yeah, I just can't. I don't care. I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, again, there are pieces of this movie that I like, and if you pluck those individual pieces, then I like it. But like, you put it all together into a movie, and it's like, it's good when you're watching it, but like, I will never ever go, you know what movie I want to watch? Iron Man 3. I won't do that. Not that there's anything wrong with this movie. It's just, in the moment, is great. But after the fact, it's just kind of like, well, that was 2 hours well spent, I guess. I won't do it again.
Yeah.
That's a glowing review compared to most of what we talk about on this show.
Yeah.
Most is forgettable would be a compliment to most of our movies.
I mean, it's definitely better than 2.
Oh God, there's not even a comparison to me. It is miles and miles better than 2.
Yeah, it's a lot better than I remember it from the first time. But yeah, I'm just not gonna ever watch it again.
My only real complaint with this movie is I'm not a fan of the twist.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Ben Kingsley being outed as a actor who is just playing the role of the Mandarin to cover up the actions of Guy Pearce's Aldrich Killian. Because Ben Kingsley's so good and he's so scary and intimidating as the Mandarin. And while there is a certain amount of humor to seeing him just be like goofy Trevor the actor, it's almost like a shock to the system to make that leap for me. And it took what could have been a pretty cool Iron Man villain and turned it into the same kind of villain that we've seen in every movie up to this point, the big company man. And I get that that's like Iron Man's thing, but man, it was close to being really cool. That's my main complaint. But I will say, as a villain, Guy Pearce is far better than Mickey Rourke was.
Yeah.
He was way better at that.
I just want to add real quick that I think Guy Pearce in general is a really good actor.
Mhm.
He's an incredibly good actor. And
What is he paying you?
so what?
Is he paying you for this?
No, he's not paying. No, he's not paying me. But like he's no, I've always liked whatever he's been in. Like he's just really good for the work, and he's a highly underrated actor. And
Okay.
he's one of the better villains in MCU that we have that so far has been in the MCU universe.
You think?
I do.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. It may be one of the best actors they've gotten to play a villain.
Sure, but
Great,
one of the best villains?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know
No.
It doesn't
about
really
that.
stand out to me because I don't feel like even though he does have some superpowers that he does show off at the end of the movie, I don't feel like he spends enough time as like that. He's not superpower bad guy enough. Like he's very much like cryptic bad guy for the majority of the movie. And if you're going to do that, you have to do it in a way that really doesn't give it all away. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, because like, I don't want to say that like a bad guy without superpowers wouldn't be interesting, because I think that Zemo in Civil War is one of the most interesting bad guys they've had. And he doesn't have like any real superpowers that he shows off. He never actually physically fights with almost anybody. But I feel like Aldrich Killian, it just feels so, his character arc through the movie feels so predictable that it doesn't really have any impact when he proclaims himself to be the Mandarin. It's just kind of like, I guess so.
You knew he was a bad guy the whole way through. That wasn't really a surprise. I go back to the very first episode we did of Iron Man, talking about it and how it was, in my opinion, a risk to use Iron Man because he wasn't one of the ones that people really knew. And even going through, this movie came out when? I don't remember. 2013. So several years after Iron Man came out. And my knowledge of his comic book universe was still very small. I didn't really know. I didn't really look into the comic book universe. But the one villain that I'd heard of was the Mandarin. My understanding was that was kind of one of Tony's like big time villains. And I feel like the twist really ruined that. I don't know why they would take a villain who was relatively well known and turn him into that, rather than just have created a character. I think that's the main issue that I have with it. If you want to deliver this story the way they did, don't make Ben Kingsley's character the Mandarin. Make it something else. Like a new villain trying to create its niche, and then you see Aldrich pulling the strings. But like to take an existing character like that and then just blow it up is really problematic. And I'm interested to see how they're going to do it, because like we know the real Mandarin allegedly is going to be in Shang-Chi when that comes out. So I'm interested to see how they go about that.
Whether or not they reference that storyline at all or not.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a big problem that I have with it, and it kind of sucked the fun out of it. And it just became a little goofy at that point in time. And then after that, it never really picked back up for me. It got better, but it never got back to where it was before that happened. But again, yeah, I don't know. I was really into this movie whenever we were watching it and we were finished it, but now that we're talking about it, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the humor's there. A lot of the charm is there. There's an interesting element with Tony suffering from anxiety attacks and things like that, a position we haven't seen the character in. And honestly, probably one that he was due for, considering all the different things he's gone through.
All the Tony stuff is great.
4 films by that point. We get a little bit of different kind of stuff. I think that it is interesting, the stuff with the Mandarin, because I feel like they kind of put themselves in a hole by using the name the Mandarin when they really could have just used any name they wanted. Obviously, I think even after the first Avengers movie, I guess they must have thought that the general movie-going audience wasn't ready for what the Mandarin in the comic books actually is. So they must have said, well, they're not ready for that. Let's really try to make it realistic. And so they kind of crafted this quasi Middle Eastern, terrorist seems very recognizable in today's world, as opposed to, a Chinese wizard essentially with alien space rings. It's much more tangible for the audience to grasp onto. But they could have just made that anything. Like you said, they could have just named him, instead of the Mandarin, just named him, the Master. I mean, they call him the Master. Every other character in the movie calls him the Master. So they could have just called him the Master as his name, and it wouldn't have been this letdown, because I think for any fans who actually know the character name, they're disappointed. And then you have to do what you're talking about, Garrett, which is now they want to actually bring that character in. Now that people have seen things like Thanos and Guardians of the Galaxy, and they've accepted, Thor Ragnarok and all this weird comic booky stuff, now they want to bring the Mandarin back, but now they kind of have to address the fact that they had a fake Mandarin earlier on in their stuff for people who really care about that kind of thing. And you could make the argument that maybe they just shouldn't care. They just should just move on. But I think that that's not really their style. So I don't know. I kind of wish, that they had done something a little bit different, because even then the payoff, the reveal wouldn't have been quite as sour if you didn't have this like grandiose build of this special character, if it was some new character you had never heard of.
One thing they could do is address it in a way of having Shang-Chi take place at the similar time as Iron Man 3, at least for like an origin story aspect. The Mandarin sees this thing on TV and somebody's taking his name and is like, I'll show them. They're trying to bank off my name. Well, I'll show them. And then Shang-Chi's like, hold up, wait a minute. That's one thing they could do.
Maybe.
But circling back to just Iron Man 3, the one thing that I liked about it a lot is all of the Tony aspects. And I will always like Tony and Iron Man. What I liked about this movie is that we got to see more of Tony Stark handling and fighting as himself rather than Iron Man.
Yeah, we got Home Depot Iron Man.
Yeah, it really just goes to show that even without the Iron Man suit, he can still handle himself. Like the Iron Man suit is obviously something he needs, because Tony Stark is just a regular guy. He's like Batman. He has no like superpower other than the fact that his brain is very smart and he's a very tech genius man. So he can make all of these things, but he himself doesn't have a superpower. So you take the suit away and you think, well, he's just going to get his butt kicked. But no, he can handle himself, and he shows that throughout this movie. And I think that also adds to the PTSD aspect of it, is anytime that he really is having trouble, it's talking about Iron Man. And so he's not in the suit. He's remote, or he's got all those remote control people that are just like flying around doing their own thing, or he's controlling it remotely. He's not in the suit as much, and I think it's because he feels trapped and confined, and that piques his anxiety, and so he's not in there as much. Now, whether or not that movie is going for that, who knows? But that's an element that I took away from it, and just adds to his reservation of being in that suit.
Makes sense. Yeah, I love all that stuff. Iron Man sort of like cobbling together stuff because his suit's broken essentially, and he's separated from him. You kind of see Iron Man have to fight from underneath in this movie, which he didn't have to do a lot in Iron Man 2 and didn't have to do much of in the Avengers. He's having to be resourceful. A lot of people, I remember at the time the movie came out, complained about that. Like the name of the movie is Iron Man. I want to see Iron Man. I don't want to see, him run around without his stuff. But I feel like that this goes further to do what we talked about after the first Iron Man movie, was making you care more about Tony Stark than about Iron Man. And when people talk about this character, they don't just say Iron Man, they say Tony Stark as interchangeably. The character isn't necessarily his powers, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that we get to see Tony go back to his roots from the first one, where the Mandarin has destroyed his home, and he's presumed dead and forced on the run, and he ends up in middle of nowhere Tennessee with a broken suit and nothing else, and he has to just set up shop in a barn and rebuild. And that's a cool part of Tony. We got to see him do that in the cave in the first one. Now we get to see him do it again. And then we also get little boy Harley, who is a great addition. And I would watch a whole sitcom of Tony and the Kid.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because they took the initiative to include this kid in Avengers Endgame. Yeah. You can see him during the funeral scene. So it makes me wonder what if any future plans they have for this character, because as far as I know, it's an original character. And the actor, he's been seen in quite a few other things. He was in Jurassic World and a couple other recent film big blockbuster type films. So interested to see where they go with that, because they do craft a pretty good little relationship here. And a lot of this movie is Tony Stark meeting regular everyday people. And which is kind of nice to see Tony kind of in public, in the world. I think he and Harley have a good relationship. It seems like it reminds me a lot of the supposed on-screen chemistry he has with Tom Holland, because it feels like they kind of are ad-libbing at times. It feels like they're kind of making it up as they go. So I'm sure they had like a thread that they had to hit. But I like the kid kind of annoying him about his anxiety and him being like,
yes,
stop it. And he's like, should I not bring that up? Like, it feels like he knows he shouldn't be bringing it up, but he wants to. He wants to see if he's lying or not.
Yeah.
It's a very similar aesthetic to him and Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
The way they kind of poke and prod with each other. And
exactly.
Harley's a very smart kid, obviously. Tony wants this kid to do well, as you see by the end. That's why he's refurnished that whole barn with a whole bunch of tech stuff. So it is very cute and foreshadowy look at the relationship between he and Pete.
Yeah, and Tony really, maybe Tony's parenting style.
Andrew, say words. You've been quiet.
Yeah, you're always so silent.
I'm silent because I'm listening.
Yeah, what did you think of director Shane Black's work here?
That's
big on cinematography, directing, things like that.
Because I love Shane Black.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's not doing what am I trying to say here? When he's not doing original work, he does stand out even in franchises. I think he was a great addition to this because all of his dialogue and even his plotting, I will give that a major plus, because Shane Black knows how to plot. And the dialogue that everybody exchanges back and forth is just top notch. And I really do love Shane Black's work. I'm glad he's here for Iron Man in this third one.
Is Shane Black also paying you?
No, he's not.
You say these things as if they're off camera, counting
What are
bills.
What are some other works of Shane Black that we might recognize, Andrew?
The Nice Guys.
Mm-hmm.
He did The Nice Guys. He did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Mhm.
I think he did. I want to say he did the Lethal Weapon movies.
I believe
All
he
four?
wrote. I believe
Not
he
all
wrote
four of
them.
them. Looking them up right now.
Interesting.
Iron Man 3, we know that.
What'd you all think? Did you find him, Andrew? I was going to give some stall time, but if you found him, go through it.
Well, the only thing I was going to say was that he was an actor at one point in time. He did. He was an actor in the movie Predator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he did the movie Last Action Hero, Lethal Weapon 4. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of like late 80s, early 90s action films. So to have, like I said, to have him in this is to have him in this, to have him as part of the franchise. He's not a stranger to franchise work. So to have him part of this franchise is like, okay, all right. It's the extra boost in the arm the series kind of needed.
Yeah, I think it was good to bring in a fresh hand for this, and
I do agree with that.
luckily they kept Jon Favreau around and gave him more of a
Yes.
like an acting role in this one.
Favreau is a really good director, but I think that, yeah, after Iron Man 2, it was right to kind of find something different for him to be doing.
Well, and some people are probably not adept to do sequels because it's a continuation. It's like what we talked about last time. This movie's kind of like filler, or the Iron Man 2 is kind of like filler work. And this movie, while it does kind of seem like a filler movie, it does have its own story. And it does, in more ways than one, seem a little fresh.
Yeah.
Here's an idea.
Feel fresh.
Or here's a thought. So Iron Man 3 was the collective like end of this Tony specific story, right? But Tony and Iron Man don't go away. They're in other movies, and this is a whole universe of superheroes and whatnot. They are coming out with another Thor movie. That'll be the first one to hit 4 that is of a singular character.
Yeah.
Do we think that's a good idea?
I don't know.
Do we think we get tired of a certain character and want them to be, just kind of pulled in and made of an ensemble? Do you think we would have? We all probably would have been like, oh, it would have been great to have an Iron Man 4, but would it? Or are we happy with how they did that and they brought him in as a major supporting character or leading character, depending on the movie? But it wasn't specifically Iron Man. It was always more than that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't really. It's hard to say where they're going because we know with the next Thor movie, Natalie Portman is Thor.
Right.
So it's going to be different. I was just trying to check it real quick, and I'm not even sure that Hemsworth is really in it.
Oh, he's in it.
Is it? Is he?
Yeah. I think so.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
I'd be surprised if he wasn't. I'm pretty sure they announced that the Chris Hemsworth will be back. Natalie Portman will be back. And they're probably going to, and probably a lot of the people that Taika brought in the last one, I'm sure they'll include Tessa Thompson in some role. Probably not Mark Ruffalo, but they could. You never really know.
Even then, let's say that Hemsworth isn't in it, and just throw this. Let's just pick the brains of Marvel creative people. Are we really going to think that Natalie Portman would be the next Thor? Is this just a one-off? Like, why would they do that? That doesn't seem like a good idea to me if you don't have Hemsworth in it to reunite him and Natalie Portman's character from the first one. Mm-hmm. And then you have that continuing storyline of like Thor not really being Thor. He's moved on, but then, hey, there's Jane and she's taken over. But then where do you go from there? Like, you just hand it over to Natalie Portman, which I'm fine with. But will that be the first person who leaves but continues on the Thor name? Because that creates a whole new kind of storytelling element and it opens so many different doors. We know everybody changes from time to time. Captain America is going to become, or Falcon's going to become Captain America. There will be another Iron Man or woman who is now a woman in the comics Are they going to do that down the line? You know, there's so many different things they can do, but I kind of like the idea of having a full arc, you know, give each person a trilogy, but keep them a part of the stories, because you know you're going to have these Avengers movies and these crossover movies. So they don't need to keep going with these singular specific characters. You can introduce new ones like they've done and then bring the old ones in. And that way you have this ever continuing cycle of getting used to new people while also bringing in the old people that I'm already familiar with to make me like these new characters that I may not be as familiar with at this moment.
I don't know. I'm going to guarantee that whatever they do with a fourth Thor movie, they're going to bring in probably several new characters. They've already introduced like Valkyrie and Thor Love in Ragnarok, I'm sure, and it's titled Love and Thunder. So I'm sure they're going to bring in some other kind of quirkier characters that'll kind of continue on that world, and we may eventually see this might be Chris Hemsworth's last go. It may be the last time we see Tom Hiddleston on the big screen or something like that. Like, I think that we'll sort of see these characters start to swan song and maybe hand off, maybe not the franchise, at least give a bit of a handoff to a different character to start their own.
Right.
I don't know if I would have been excited about an Iron Man 4. I think at the time in 2013, maybe, but I think the way they handled it was fine. And I wouldn't have thought if 4 Thor would ever happen, but I think they really captured something special by getting Taika Waititi involved. And I think his imagination has been flared. And so, like, if he didn't have an idea, then I would say, no, don't force it. We don't need another one. You guys did it. And his arc through Infinity War into Endgame is great. Just leave it be. Yeah. But if Taika's got a great idea and and they have a cool idea and the creative team is involved, sure, go for it. Why not? You know, I don't feel like we're going to be getting it anytime soon. But there are, I don't know, there's definitely pros and cons to both. I think you're going to see a lot of new characters in the future. We'll see some old characters return. You know, I think Thor's going to be kind of unique in that sense. I don't know if we're not going to get another Steve Rogers Captain America movie. We're not going to get another Tony Stark Iron Man movie. It's hard to say we'll get any other character movies like that, you know.
The way they handled Iron Man, in hindsight, we definitely did not need a fourth Iron Man movie, just because we got plenty of Iron Man throughout the Avengers and Captain America Civil War and all that. So we didn't need that. But I also honestly, I don't think Marvel cares if you want the old characters to like serve as a transition piece or not. Just looking at their lineup, I don't think that's something they're interested in, because they've got so many new characters they're bringing in, and they're kind of transitioning the old characters to television shows on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. And so I don't, you know, Hemsworth probably will be in there in some fashion in Thor 4. I don't really think they care what you think about it. You know, like, they're just going to tell you, hey, Natalie Portman is the new Thor through whatever title she's given or something. And that's just, you just get to deal with that. I don't know that they'll do this changing of the guard type of thing per se. And I mostly say that just because we see them shift these, like, there's like the first class of like the seniors have graduated and now they're throwing them onto television. And then the new kids are like getting the movies.
You got to be careful. Like Saved by the Bell, the new class was real bad.
Thor got held back.
That's why they didn't give them a movie.
And Thor got held back. So.
But there's so many other, like the Phase 4 is Black Widow. That is, you know, we know that that's a prequel. Mm-hmm. And we're pretty certain that the idea is to set up Florence Pugh as a new character to move her into her own franchise. Mm-hmm. Then we got the Eternals. We know that that's all new people. Shang-Chi, all new people. And then we've got Spider-Man, who this is just his third movie.
Mm-hmm. And they've been using Iron Man heavily in his stuff.
Yeah. So. We got Doctor Strange and in the Multiverse of Madness. That's just his second.
Yeah.
And then we do have Thor going into a fourth movie, but with this new dynamic we don't understand yet. Yeah. So
it could be called a second movie.
They seem full speed ahead on Let's Be Weird.
Well, and allegedly you're going to have Thor in some way, shape, or form. And then the next Guardians movie too.
Yeah,
They
Guardians
certainly
will have
implied that.
yeah, Guardians will have a third movie. Black Panther's going to have a second movie out. So Ant-Man will have a third movie come out.
Captain
So there's
Marvel's
so
got a
many.
director,
Yeah, Captain Marvel. So there's so
Yeah,
many.
I was just reading Phase 4, by the way.
Yeah.
I knew
There's
there was
just
a
so
couple.
many. I prefer that, honestly, because in order, again, a lot of these characters you don't know. And so in order for me to really feel like a connection, if I'm thinking, okay, here's what I'm going to do for somebody who might be like, well, you bring in some of those old characters just to give them a rub. And then then you feel connected, and then you can take off with them by themselves, but or introduce them in a bigger movie crossover kind of a thing, because at some point in time they're also going to do X-Men, and at some point in time they're going to do Fantastic Four. Like they're going to have a bunch, and being able to weave in this universe is going to be interesting to see how they do it.
I'll say this. At the end of the day, there really is no path. There's no guide. There's no rule book for this. Marvel's been basically breaking ground on this entire premise of a studio having a large shared universe of characters and storylines that all intersect and go back and forth. There's nothing that says, hey, it won't work if you do 4 movies for one character, but only 3 for the others. And there's no rule that says, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. Every other studio out there that's tried to replicate these ideas at all hasn't had the success that Marvel's had, and with the exception of a handful of missteps here and there, Marvel's just kind of proven that like whatever they'll figure it out, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. So like if they've kind of got the leeway to decide to do it however they see fit. If they want to do another if they decided 10 years from now to bring back the Iron Man character through shenanigans, that's just kind of their choice. They're the ones who kind of own all the stuff. We'll just have to kind of react. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I would have wanted Iron Man 4.
No,
Put out has been good.
but like
I think honestly they did Iron Man better I think Civil War is Iron Man 4 for the most part. And we get Iron Man 5 and 6 out of Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
Going back to Iron Man 3, what y'all think of Powerful Pepper? I don't know what her superhero name is.
Yeah, I liked her. I thought, well, I mean, it was an interesting thing to have. That was honestly a bigger twist at the end than the Trevor reveal was. Them ladling Pepper with this really dangerous super soldier serum of some sort, and her being all fiery, powerful. And I guess we're left to assume that for the most part, Tony fixed that between Iron Man 3 and the next film. But an interesting little moment. I kind of feel like it's one of those missed opportunities long term, but in the short term, very interesting because we see her theoretically fall to her death, only for her to come back and save Tony.
Well, and I always wonder about that too, because he did say that he was going to fix it, but did that mean he was going to get rid of it, or he was going to stabilize it? Because when she comes back in Endgame, she's some kind of superhero. Don't know really what, and that's why I feel like it's a kind of a unnecessary, because they never ever did anything with it again. Realistically, it took me like whenever she came in Endgame, I was like, what the hell is Pepper doing there? Oh wait, no, she fires. She can flame on. Because you never see her again in any of those movies. This never comes up again. And then all of the sudden, 7 years later, or 8 years later, however many, it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute, no, she does have powers. And it just seems like a huge waste of memory space.
Yeah. But then again, so is Gwyneth Paltrow.
Listen, Goop people, I'm not going there. I'm not going
there. You like there's a
send your
Goop
letter.
army?
You can send
There
your
is a Goop army, and I'm afraid of it.
Andrew Nichols at gmail.com.
I will not upset the Goop army.
She's crazy.
Oh boy. Anyway, I was gonna ask, what did you guys think of? Because we talked about it a little bit last week. What did you think about our post-credit scene? This was sort of forgetting the shawarma one, the first of the jokey post-credit scenes that didn't really mean anything.
Didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We got the shawarma in the Avengers, and then Iron Man 3 comes out, and we get the whole, like, how does that make you feel couch talk with Bruce. And it's like, why do you make us wait for that? Like, it's funny, kind of. It served as a very subtle, very unnecessary, but like appreciated plot device where Tony was a narrator of this movie, kind of inexplicably. And then we find out at the very, very end that he was telling the story to Bruce the whole time. Like, that's funny, and it fills like a little tiny hole that didn't need to be filled, but it did serve a purpose, as insignificant as it was.
But it didn't really. But unfortunately,
it didn't do anything for me.
With how they did, with how they were using these post-credit things and the build up to Avengers, it's kind of like, oh, well, that was nice, I guess. It shows that this, all this stuff is still here together. Because look, there's Bruce Banner in an Iron Man movie, and that's neat. But it doesn't really like do anything to make you go, oh, I'm so excited to go watch the next movie now, or I'm excited for this or that. In the past, this would have been like a tease for Thor: The Dark World in the past.
Exactly. It was just a cap on this movie. It didn't really serve as a tease, which I always prefer it when it's a tease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Didn't do anything. Didn't care about it.
I got one.
But then you're just mad at Bruce. Like, really, you slept through the whole thing? Because the last thing he remembered was the elevator.
Yeah, that was at the beginning of the movie.
That was at the very beginning. Come on, Bruce.
I had a lot of fun with that, though. Them being in 1999, just about to hit Y2K. On Blues blasting on the radio.
Yeah,
I liked all that.
Josh's favorite song.
I hate that song. It's so annoying.
I love the honestly, the makeup department should have won an award for trying to make Guy Pearce look ugly at the beginning of this movie. Like, it was a lot of work, and it still didn't really work.
Did they even try? It was like the most stereotypical thing, like put long hair on him and glasses and call him ugly. That's the way it's gonna work.
Give him a crutch. That'll work.
Make his teeth look a little bulbous, but not much.
So much effort, and really, honestly, he's still better looking than most of the people that I see on a daily basis. That was rude. I don't know why I said that, but
it's true.
He's still Guy Pearce. What was that? I had one more thing I wanted to bring up, but I can't remember. You guys move on.
I got nothing else to say.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, we covered a lot of it. The movie. What makes this movie important is Tony's mental state, and we covered that. The rest, everything else, just kind of happens around him.
Garrett, you talked about this movie being forgettable. Here's a kind of forgettable aspect about this movie that it takes place during Christmas.
Oh, I was going to ask y'all for a poll. Is Iron Man 3 a Christmas movie? Yes or no? Go.
No, it's a movie set during Christmas, but it's
I'm going to tie it.
Oh man, well,
tie.
Not a Christmas movie.
Where are those reactions? You only get thumbs up or clap. Oh,
yeah, they're only positive. Zoom is very positive. No, it's not. It's because then I have to concede my argument about Die Hard being a Christmas movie, and I will not concede that argument. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie just because it takes place at Christmas. Iron Man 3 is not a Christmas movie because it takes place at Christmas. That is not how it works at all.
I mean, there's a lot of Christmas music infused into it, so it makes for a very different feel for a big, like, an action Marvel movie. I found that to be very interesting. Like, the second, and honestly, I don't think you'd have any reason to know until he starts playing, Dashing Through the Snow right at the beginning of the movie.
Here's what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna say it on.
I wish more movies did that
record.
though. He said during Halloween,
but
not be a Halloween movie. Do something fun.
This year, going into Christmas, we are going to record an episode that is dedicated to determining the rules for what makes a Christmas movie.
Perfect.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna research what other people are saying, and we're gonna come up with the So Many Sequels definitive list of rules for what makes a Christmas movie.
Yes.
Right.
You
That's
heard
it.
it here first.
Fantastic episode. And if you want to be involved, we will make sure to put that.
Yeah,
on
absolutely. Let's get fans involved in this because we want to hear from them as much as possible. And don't just say, yes, it is. Give me a reason why. Give me a good fucking reason why. Because,
show your work.
Because it's, yes, you have to give me a reason why you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And it can't just be because there's Christmas trees in the background. That's not a good reason.
Right.
Sell me. I'm the change my mind meme. Change my mind. Really sell me on it.
Right.
Andrew, who has been fighting this argument since we've known each other, and he has yet to give me a good reason.
I think I'm with you on this one, Garrett.
No.
I've never
On
seen
what, Die Hard?
But in my defense, and this might be a part of our research. I've never seen Die Hard. So that's going to come into it. I know.
Then you're gonna have to watch it just for that episode.
Gonna have to watch Die Hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to really, really sit down, pen and pad, analyze this thing.
Because to me, it's an action movie. It's not a Christmas movie.
Well, now you can wait a second.
No, it's not a Christmas
because there are
movie.
action movies that are Christmas movies, so that can't
Jingle
be
All the Way. Hello.
Yes, but that is centered around a Christmas-themed element. Die Hard is not. Die Hard takes place at Christmas.
Okay. Hey,
end.
Boys,
Right,
save
right.
it for the podcast. Save it for the Christmas.
Yeah, save it for the podcast. I was just saying.
Debate podcast.
I was just saying. You said it can't be a Christmas movie because it's an action movie, and that doesn't make sense.
No. Jingle All the Way is both.
I
Die
know,
Hard
but
is not.
that's what you said, so I
Boys.
was just correcting.
Incorrect.
Save it for the
You
great
said
Christmas
that.
debate.
I said Die Hard is an action movie.
Boy.
It is not a Christmas movie.
Mute
You
this
can't.
man.
I did not say that there cannot be some that are the same. I said Die Hard is an action movie,
Yeah.
not a Christmas movie.
Mhm.
Die Hard, the end.
Yes,
Just Die
but they-
Hard.
But both can exist.
Yes, I didn't say they couldn't.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, brother.
This is going to be a good episode.
I'm already mad about
Why
it.
did Andrew leave?
Might record this tomorrow. He's upset with Garrett.
He is.
Sorry, I'm right.
Look at his egg-shaped head. He's just steaming over there. It's not gonna.
Honestly, I have a scary feeling that through the
It's not gonna
research,
fit.
I'm going to convince myself that it might be one.
Interesting. I mean, if Die Hard is one, then Iron Man 3 is.
I know, that's the thing.
All right.
And then you got Batman Returns.
There you go. Anyway,
I'm really tempted to keep going, but I'm not.
yeah, we've kind of.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about Iron Man 3.
All right. Well, shall we just move on to the
It's
box
good.
office?
It's better than 2. It's not better than 1, but it's
That's your
like
ranking.
not
Then
far.
1, 3, 2.
1, 3, 2, 1 and 3 being closer than 3 and 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay. Shall we move on to the box office stats then?
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, Iron Man 3 debuted on May 3rd, 2013. I believe, Josh, you and I actually saw this together.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we did on of 2013. So there are certain movies that have dominated a box office weekend. This movie sort of is one of those typical definitions for that concept. So at number 1, Iron Man 3 opened with a 3-day total of $174.1 million.
When was it released? Can you tell me again?
This is May 3rd of 2013.
So one would call it a summer blockbuster.
Yeah,
not a
it
Christmas movie.
definitively opened the summer that year. At number 2, with 7.5 million, is Pain and Gain. So 174 million to 7. That's a huge gap. The box office share that weekend went heavily to Iron Man 3. At number 3, you have 42. I believe about Jackie Robinson. Yes, Jackie Robinson. And that brought in $6 million in its 4th week.
Future Black Panther member.
It is Chadwick Boseman.
Yep.
Right. And at At number 4, you have, I don't even remember this movie, Oblivion. Do you guys remember this?
With Tom Cruise?
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Maybe. A veteran assigned to extract Earth's remaining resources begins to question what he knows about himself. Yeah, I think it is Tom Cruise. Oblivion was in its 3rd week. It brought in $5.6 million. And number 5, The Croods brought in $4.2 million in its 7th weekend. So Iron Man 3 would go on to make a really, really good $409 million domestically that year. But that was only 33% of its total haul, because internationally it brought in $805 million overseas, which brings its worldwide total to $1.2 billion. Just a huge haul. The interest in Iron Man post Avengers was astronomical, and that wouldn't really necessarily continue for all the other characters, because we would still see Thor: The Dark World and Captain America: The Winter Soldier did well, but not nearly as well as Iron Man 3 by comparison. At the end of the year for 2013, on the domestic side, Iron Man 3 was the number 2 movie of the year. You guys, I don't think, would ever guess the number 1 movie of 2013 on the U.S. charts.
Is it a franchise-based movie?
It is a franchise movie, and it is a sequel.
Is it something kind of Fast and Furious?
We've never done it. And no, it's not Fast and Furious. But
I don't know. I give up.
I will spare you the guessing, because it is Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Brought in $424 million in the United States, making it the number 1 movie in the U.S. that year. At number 3, like I said, Iron Man 3 was number 2. At number 3, you had Frozen. At number 4, Despicable Me. And at number 5, Man of Steel. On the worldwide charts, it's a bit of a different picture. Frozen was number 1. Iron Man 3, again, number 2. Despicable Me 2 was number 3. And The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug was number 4 on the worldwide charts that year. Number 5 was, again, Catching Fire. So the highest grossing non-sequel that year was Frozen. The highest grossing, I guess Frozen technically would be the highest grossing original concept for the most part too, although it's loosely based on the Snow Queen. But I just for the sake of saying another movie, one of the highest grossing original concepts that year was Gravity. Came in at number 6 that year on the U.S. charts and number 8 on the worldwide. Some other big movies of 2013 that you may remember: Fast and Furious 6, Star Trek Into Darkness, World War Z. I'm trying to look for American Hustle. Was a good one. The Great Gatsby came out that year, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. Grown Ups 2 is one we previously reviewed. Anchorman 2, Lone Survivor. I think that one did really well that year. The Wolf of Wall Street came out that year. I don't remember off the top of my head what won Best Picture in 2013. I can find out, though.
Robot Andrew will tell you in 3, 2, 1.
12 Years a Slave.
12 Years a Slave. Was that the winner in 2013? Very good. Very good. All right. That's really it. I didn't go through this to see any other ones that we watched, but yeah, go check out our Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2 review. We did that way back when. And did you guys review Frozen? I can't remember.
We have not.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really about it. So I will pass it on to the Letterboxd game, which I think Garrett won.
It is me. It is I. It is the one and only Garrett who's running the Letterboxd game.
Cool.
Yeah. Y'all got guesses?
I'm going to fire off and say 2.9.
2.9.
I'm going to go with... No, not that high. I'm going to go with 2.7.
2.7.
Y'all are butts.
Now, for the record, well, I won't say anything because go ahead.
I'm going to go with 3.0.
3.0. Oh,
Okay.
shoot.
Just for the record, Iron Man was at 3.7 on Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man 2 is at 2.9. 2.9.
Yeah.
So
I think most people probably think Iron Man 3 is slightly better, but I'm going to hope that it just averages down.
So
I got to hit it on the head here.
for the record, I made a guess because I forgot. Mine was 3.2. Had I guessed, Josh and I would be going to a tiebreaker, but as I did not, Josh wins. It is a 3.1.
3.1.
I respect that.
So another win for Josh. Josh takes a commanding lead in the overall Letterboxd ranking.
Ooh.
I say
always
commanding.
forget that you're keeping track.
Keeping track. Josh is up. Josh now has 6 Letterboxd wins. Garrett and I are tied with 5, and Andrew has 4.
Well, that's it for this episode. Find us online on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can search for So Many Sequels on each of those apps. We're also on Letterboxd. All of us individually, as well as the show So Many Sequels. We're all there. So we will see you next time with a new series. And you can also keep an eye out for a new video on our YouTube channel explaining what that is going to be. Because we don't know yet. So find us there, YouTube. Subscribe.
YouTube.
Hit the like buttons.
YouTube.
Till then.